this last meeting.
Well,
Not really, I had a good time.
Well, we're docking your salary.
that's right.
Please, I still need my expenses.
Well, Joe is not here yet, but I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We have, members Nancy Olson, Shepard, oh, there he is, making it just in time. Rhonda Ponte, Phil Weezy, Nancy Hall, and Joe Schofield are all here, and, John, Greg is on the phone, so we have a complete, group. It's been properly noticed, and,
Just real quick, I
Yeah.
wanted to bring in Julie for those of you who have not met her. And
Hi.
she'll be the one preparing all your stuff, and
Yep.
I think if you don't have her contact information, you can get on your way out. I don't know if you guys need anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Welcome aboard, Joe.
Welcome aboard. I think we need as I recall, a motion to include John in the meeting.
I'll move to allow John to vote as appropriate.
A second?
Second.
Hearing no discussion, vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. John,
Everybody,
you're part of the group. Okay. I think what we'll do is, I'm gonna reshuffle the agenda a little and get the association manager report and Securitas on first, so we can let some of these folks go. So, Scott, you're up.
Scott Sharnoff, Pelican Reserve Community Association. What I presented to all of you was the most recent engineering study and pricing for the 4 bridges. We had to go back to the engineers. We found some deficiencies in the bridging. So I have brought Phil from Stokes Marine, who has been selected. Stokes Marine has been selected to do the project, and he's going to give you a summary of what they found and the material that we need to be using. Okay?
Okay.
Bill?
Good morning.
Morning there.
Phil LeBoudier with Stokes Marine. So a little bit of the backstory. We came out here in August 3rd of 2018, and John Seekman was the design project manager at the time, who is no longer with Stokes Marine, so it's been handed over to me. But this page here is kind of what I'm referring to as well. He came out and gave a preliminary assessment, if you will, prior to engineering, in terms of what he felt a good budgetary number would be to shore up those 4 bridges, to get them safe, secure, to bring them back up to code, if you will. And again, these are just preliminary numbers, and it was all subject to having a certified, authorized engineer come out there and provide the plans, which is needed to be done by code. So you all did that. We turned Pelican Preserve on to an engineer. They came out here, they had a field assessment, they went back, did some drawings, and we noticed a couple things in the drawing that were a little inconsistent. So we called up Joe Foster, who is the owner and operator of Foster Engineering. We dialogued with him maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. We had him make some changes from his recommendation to our recommendation, to try to get the cost down a little bit, to stay within your budgetary guidelines. In doing so, there was still some discrepancies, so he drove down from St. Pete just yesterday. We had about a 2-hour meeting in our conference room, and he was actually on site at Pelican Preserve yesterday and noticed a few other items that are not within your immediate engineering that you have right now. So those plans that you have don't call for certain pilings on bridge number 4. So it's a little off, but we're currently getting those up to code. So the original assessment was going to be about $39,370 to replace each of the bridges. with number 3 being more detailed because of the pilings have been what's called scabbed together. At some point, at somewhere down the line, the elevation of that bridge was raised. So in doing so, you had to make the pilings taller. So I'm not even sure who did it, but they took some smaller pilings, they put them on top, they scabbed them together. And if you, I did, good. So this photo right here, this is the picture I'm referring to, that you all have a copy of. This one right here, you see the scabbing, and the scabbing is simply all of those boards that are pressed together that are at the water line up to the underneath side of the bridge. They're scabbed together and they're simply there to help support the additional piling that was on top. Neither here nor there, but that's why that bridge is designed that way. So he noticed that we needed to shore those up in a different fashion than we did bridges 1 and 2. And when he was on site yesterday, he also noticed that the exact same thing had happened to bridge number 4. So we need to install synthetic pilings atop, or what's called sleeved, around the existing pilings. We're not replacing the pilings, we're gonna put these collars, if you will, and for lack of a better word, and to put it into layman's terms, it's basically a big round 12-inch piece of PVC, in a sense, that's gonna go over the top of the pilings, and then we're gonna bolt through them, and so it's basically one solid piling. We're doing that on bridge number 3 and number 4. They're expensive. Yes, ma'am.
Which, can you put a number with each bridge, maybe Scott?
Yes,
See the,
1 and 2 are back by the butterfly garden on the
Okay.
back side. 3 and 4, the ones he's talking about on the pilings, are
Okay.
behind the sales center.
Nancy, there's a little bit of a map
Oh.
here.
picture.
That map, okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Mhm.
And the picture that you're looking at right now, that's building number 3, or I'm sorry, bridge number 3. This is bridge number 3, this photo right here. So these sleeves, if you will, they're basically we're still gonna outsource and try to get the cost to match what we have, which we will. But it's called a Pearson piling or a fortress piling, and again, it goes over the top of the other piling. And it allows us to reinforce the piling that's there. They're very strong, 100% fiberglass and plastic mixed together. It's about a 3/8 inch thick, and that will help us shore up that one portion of it. The downfall to that is they come with a cost. They are very expensive. They need to be shipped down from the Virginia area, trucked down here. But this pricing does reflect bridge number 3 and bridge number 4 with those reinforced pilings sleeved over the top of the existing pilings. So of course, that brought up that price to, if you go to now, this page right here I'm referring to. I know that we originally had some budgetary numbers of $157,000, and I felt obligated to give you an explanation as to why it went up $50,000. And it went up $50,000 because these pilings are expensive. In terms of what the engineering called for, that's what he's recommending. That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna get down here, and we're gonna put those on top. We're not marking any of this material up. We get a great deal on these pilings. It comes to us, we put that cost right back onto you. We basically get paid for the labor to install these, just as a side note. So that's why this
So
price,
the attached was the original, 157,480,
that was the original assessment, yes, sir, without
without these special.
some guy's opinion, not guys, but it's without an engineer's opinion, in terms of if we were to go out there and build that right now without engineering.
Mhm.
So it went up significantly enough that I felt an explanation was in order, and there's kind of our explanation in terms of what it was. The additional change is going to be that we are going to be using plastic decking, 100% 2-inch, 100% plastic decking or synthetic decking. It's not a compost, it's not a composite. Composite still has wood fiber in it. This is 100% plastic. The current bridge right now has a 4x4 barrier, if you will, that is on the deck, that is 4 inches by 4 inches, that kind of keeps the cart paths kind of in place. The engineer called for a 6x6. To do that, to get a good reference on what that looks like, I will have you all refer to this photograph right here. That is a 6x6 installed in this particular case, without the handrail, but regardless, this 6x6 is what would be going down.
And what 6x6?
This here, on the side, that's on the bottom. Very difficult to drive a golf cart over a 6x6 piece of lumber that's been blocked to the decking.
You don't know our residents.
Not yet. So that is a change. The blocking underneath is a change, and the blocking underneath simply means you gotta bolt those 6x6 long boards to something, so we put a block underneath it, like a bushing, to accept that, so when one of the residents do accidentally bump into it, it's still gonna stay in place. So that's the vast majority of where the increase is gonna come. It's very laborious to put on those pilings over a top, or sleeve the synthetic pilings over the other pilings. Can easily be done. It's not a big deal for us, but the material itself is quite costly. That said, I know you had a budgetary number. I know you had your head wrapped around 160 grand, basically. So if we go back to this sheet, right here, I broke it out to give you some options. If we want to continue and stay within the budgetary guidelines, excuse me, around 158, we can go with no handrail, and we can use wood decking, which is down there right now. To be completely candid, the wood decking these years are actually pretty good. It will last longer than the decking that's out there now. Doesn't matter to us whether we're cutting synthetic or cutting wood, the labor's still the same. It's got a nice look to it. It is far cheaper, far less expensive than going the synthetic route. It's not as pretty. Over time, your sole will get splinters. It will require a little bit of maintenance. But if you want to go without the handrail and wood decking, and I'm referring to the area on the far right, we can basically stay within the original budgetary number. If you want to go no handrail with synthetic, which is the plastic decking, you're going up to $177,000. If you wanted to go the handrail with the wood, of course you're at 190, and then handrail with synthetic is 208. So why no handrail? The no handrail takes out a lot of the labor, takes out a lot of the material, takes us less time to build it. We're anticipating it's going to be between 5 to 7 days for each bridge for removal and replacement. But that's going to be a way to save you money. In doing so, and I had never thought about this when we were talking with Joe yesterday, he's designed a lot of these golf cart paths, a lot of these boardwalk paths, and he says the vast majority of the ones that are going in now, they aren't even putting in handrail because it's a little bit of a target for children to go sit on it. I know it's a 55+ community, so you may not have as many kids, but you still may have a target where people will go and sit on it and then hence fall off of. If you are going across this with your hands out, sometimes the hand could get caught on the handrail itself, a little bit of an issue. A couple things he just brought to mind that I never really thought of, but there are a lot of examples out there of newer bridges for pedestrians and also for cart paths that do not require a handrail.
So if it didn't have a handrail, it would look like this last
Yes, sir.
picture.
Yep, and so bridge, this picture right here is the actual bridge that's at Pelican Preserve. This picture is not, but I simply pulled it off the internet and found something that was very similar to what it would look like. I think a cool little plus is that you can kind of see the preserve a little bit better. It's more low profile, you can see through it. This is up to code without the handrail. This is up to code with the handrail. Makes no difference. Still gonna fly.
We have some of the ones without handrails on the golf side.
There you go.
Yeah.
Completely
We're
your
not familiar
decision.
with it.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, that we're a 55 and over community. The children don't bother me as much as maybe somebody with a balance issue or something trying to go across it. And it's mostly for walking, not necessarily for golf carts.
That's true. Bicycles and pedestrians.
Yeah, bicycles and pedestrians, and so.
And the kids we have are grandkids that are uncontrollable at times.
Yeah. So we're thinking
Chips
handrail.
off the old block.
Exactly.
Yeah,
People like to stop and they'll just kind of rest and
Sure.
look out over the ponds and that,
Sure.
or, you know, lean on the railing. and
There's
that.
a lot of picture taking. People would put a camera on the railing.
Yeah.
They fish off them.
Yeah, underneath the
Sure.
bridge.
Again, the reason I threw that in there for you was simply to give you an option. If we had to get the number back down to the original
Yeah.
What?
Budgetary number.
Question down here.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Well, you said that the life expectancy of the wood deck now is much increased over what it used to be. What's the difference now between the plastic and the wood lifespan?
Oh, I mean, the product we're putting down has got a 50-year warranty on decay.
For the wood?
For the
The
synthetic.
plastic.
Yeah, wood is
Wood
wood.
like wood.
It's just simply the chemicals that they're putting in the wood these days. This is not pressure treated lumber. This is marine grade, higher concentrate, 0.06 CCA. And I'll dig up what CCA means. It's a calcium something. It's a good thing,
It's
but
not
it
gonna be
preserves
near
it
to
better.
the
Sorry?
plastic. It's not gonna be close to the plastic, though.
So,
In years.
It is wood. It is wood. It's what we build our docks with. It's a marine environment, and that's a wet environment, but it's not a salt marine environment. All of the lumber, all of the decking, all of the hardware is gonna be built as if we're building a brand new dock. So we are using not just pressure treated that you can run down to Home Depot and buy, we're using marine grade lumber, which you can go to Shoreline and purchase.
Apples to apples, or apples to oranges, we got almost 19 years out of what we have for the bridge, not talking about the pilings. So now if we go synthetic, are we gonna be looking at it 20 years from now and saying, well, the upper part's good, it'll go another 30 years, but we gotta now change the piling?
I feel comfortable saying, I don't know.
If the existing wood lasted 19, what would the new wood last as compared to the 50 years?
My best guess is longer, and I don't mean to be snide with that,
No, no.
simply it just hasn't been around that long to really have enough of a resume to say, hey, on the average environment, I can tell you now, the wood putting in a Pelican Preserve is gonna last much longer than it would down on Fort Myers Beach. Different environment, different salt, you got a little bit more shade in there.
Reasonable to expect at least 20 years?
Very reasonable, absolutely, very reasonable, sure.
So
I mean, some of these docks I'm replacing on a daily basis have been around for 25 years, and they're actually still in fairly decent condition, and they're on the, they're down in Fort Myers Beach, or they're on the river.
Okay.
So, yeah, absolutely.
The synthetic has a 50-year life and the wood 20-25 then?
There's no warranty on the wood. With this product, it's a Tangent Technologies product. That has a 50-year warranty on corrosion and decomposition. It's just like a plastic bottle. I mean, those things, they're gonna be around forever. They're gonna be digging this thing up in 2,000 years, wondering what it is. Wood is still wood. It's still gonna decay and decompose over time.
We have spent over the years a lot of money replacing boards and doing different things on the boardwalk. With the synthetic, is there what kind of maintenance are we looking at?
In a perfect world, none. Certain areas that, have a lot of birds overhead, you might get some droppings from the birds. Certain areas with a lot of shade, you might have a little bit of mold and mildew. You just simply, most of the time, Mother Nature takes care of it on an open dock. In certain areas, maybe a light pressure washing once a year, or even a hose. But typically, I don't want to say maintenance free, but there's not a lot you need to do to it. The downfall to it is you're stuck with that color forever, whereas wood, you can paint it, stain it.
My sense is, though, that a lot of the repairs, and Scott or Chris can tell us about this, a lot of the repairs have to do with the wood being displaced because of golf carts going over it and having to be nailed down again. Is that true? In other words,
Well, that's part of the problem with, as wood ages, those holes that the screws go through, they're gonna loosen up, and that's what's happening. The boards are decomposing, breaking, rotting, and are being replaced. I guess you could say that the heavier golf cart use would provide additional wear and tear on it, but I think it's primarily because of the age.
With the wood curling and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I see that on the handrails.
Yeah.
They
This
show up.
is John Gray. I got a question.
yeah, sure, go ahead, John.
How are you putting first, how are you putting the wood down? Are you screwing it down or just nailing it?
Great question. We're gonna use a Miro screw, and it's a 304 stainless 3-inch hex screw.
Okay,
So it's
so
not-
you're screwing it.
Yes, sir, and it's
So you're using the same screws for the synthetic.
absolutely, yep. Wood or synthetic, whichever you choose, it's gonna get the same screw.
And you're anchoring in, I'm looking over the drawings, you are anchoring it into a new structure.
Correct.
You're not going into the old structure.
No, we are reframing, which is underneath the decking,
Okay.
and then also putting down new decking. Currently, you have 2x8
You are-
decking,
you are
we're going with
screwing it in.
3x10.
You're not just nailing them in.
No, no nails.
All right, how is the old wood put in now? Was it just nailed or were they screwed?
You know, I'm not so sure.
Combination.
Combination.
I didn't
Scott
stare at
said.
that much.
Originally, how was it done?
Nobody around here to know.
I would presume it was still screwed in, because nails have a tendency to back themselves out over time. I didn't see a lot of that on there, unless you've got somebody walking
I have a
around.
condo here at the
Screw
shore
'em.
in New Jersey, and we've gotten involved with a lot of the decking and things like that, and you nail it in, it doesn't work. It has to be screwed.
Sure. You'll see us out there with nails. We are only spacing the boards with 10-penny nails. We're not nailing it in, and then they go down with a Miro screw.
Okay, if we spring for the, after 50,000 to go synthetic all the way, is it reasonable to assume that the pilings are gonna last another 50 years? I don't wanna put you on the spot, but I mean,
I think it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable to, yeah. You're not, you know, there's no current in there. You hardly have any tidal flow. You know, if it's rainy, it's going to be higher or lower. I can tell you that on bridges 3 and 4, that's going to last a good bit, because we're basically putting on new pilings over the old pilings, because that's where the synthetic portion comes in. 1 and 2 aren't receiving those sleeve pilings, so they're going to have a different kind of a substructure integrity than 3 and 4.
We're talking 20 to 30 years conservatively.
I would say yes.
John Greg again, I have another question. In regards to, if you stayed with wood, how often do you think you might have to stain it?
That's a great question. After 6 months, that you're going to have an expansion and a contraction with the wood. And after 6 months, we ask you if you are going to stain it or take it into a different color. You wait 6 months for it to kind of dry up a little bit. From there, you can, you know, depends on the application, depends on what you put down. If you do an oil-based stain, that's going to last much longer than just putting on a seal coat. You know, again, it depends on your environment, depends on the sun. I would say probably every couple of years, you could probably put down some sort of a coating, if you will. The benefit of going with wood is you
If we're
can
looking
change
at
the color
cost
too.
structure, we should take into account that the wood is gonna have a higher maintenance than the synthetic.
Absolutely.
Can you still get oil stains?
It doesn't matter, you're still gonna have an issue.
Yeah, but the latex doesn't penetrate, and that's why it wears so quick, and you do it a lot. Plus, I've had issues with latex around where there's moisture, and we certainly have moisture there, and it doesn't last as long. I've talked to several manufacturers, and they just say, well, get the deck up higher.
Is that Joe that mentioned that?
Yeah, I'm
Joe,
sorry,
you're correct.
that's Joe, yeah.
All right, oil stain probably works the best.
Yeah, I
The
agree.
issue you can have with that, and maybe our guest can answer this, over the years, we're gonna be gone. And people are gonna go from oil to latex, and then you're gonna have a mess.
Absolutely. Oil
You're gonna-
stain's the
you're
only
gonna
way
know
to
what
go.
used before, and half of the time, that doesn't always happen, unless Scott stays with us for the next 50 years.
We're gonna pray hard that he lives that long.
Wow.
I'm gonna
Another
die
50
trying.
years out of this body, I'm good.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a budgetary question? We have the money to cover the 50,000.
I think we were always intending to finance this part of it out of the unassigned reserve.
Well, I wanted to make sure,
Yeah. And
We
you
then-
know,
do.
I mean, we're having a discussion about spending another 50, I wanna make sure we've got the 50.
we could now borrow the HOA, we got it in.
Yeah, reasonable rates.
You know, and on that note as well, the bridge was designed, and you can refer to your engineering, the bridge was laid out by the engineer in the design in which what he saw. There's a lot of extra boards in there you don't need. You need that top cap, that's what you rest against. You need that 6x6 in the bottom. You don't need 3 additional boards in the center. You don't need, you know, you could take out a little bit of labor and some materials for that as well. So just another thought, to still have the handrail and not have quite that kind of a handrail.
And-
Just a thought.
And but the high price assumes the same handrails.
Yeah, and it's a good looking hand, it's very safe, you know, little kids can't get over or under it, and it'd be hard to get out of that bridge unless you're jumping over the top.
Yeah.
So the plastic will last 50 years, that's a 50-year life cycle
The
there?
decking.
The decking, okay.
The decking will last longer than 50 years. It's got a 50-year warranty, whereas it's the warranty, not that in 50 years it's not gonna be at least.
Yeah, I got it.
Now, again, this product 50 years ago hasn't been around, so they feel comfortable saying that it's gonna
Yeah, we
last.
got you on tape, guaranteed.
I'm sure you did.
And they're 2x6s, you said?
They will be 2x6s, yes, sir. There will be.
The long and the short of it, between the low end price and the high end price is a total of $50,000.
Right.
By 2,500 homes, it's $20. We got enough information going on this.
Yeah, the one question I guess in my mind is, did we take this to have we taken it to the?
Yeah, we took it to them, but we didn't have the engineering fees. We gotta go back.
Well, we'd have to go back
Yeah,
anyway.
we'd have to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But,
Okay.
but we do have the money, I mean, our intent when we talked about it originally was to take it out of the unassigned reserves that we have.
Right.
And we've got 3.1 million right now in
Yeah.
unassigned.
And Ron,
I don't think that's quite,
yeah.
Well-
unassigned in quotes.
In quotes,
In
but.
quotes.
Yeah,
and
it's got a lot of that is
we got
really
stuff-
allocated to different
Well,
things
I know,
that we're
and
trying to
and we've
fix.
got 2 capital projects that
Yeah.
Scott wants to do this year, that'll be 145 coming out of there. We also had said we were gonna set up a separate storm reserve, which is
Right.
another 100,000 coming out of there.
Right, right.
Plus,
That includes the ponds money.
yeah, and I
You got
don't know what,
Yeah,
how
it
much
really
money
isn't
is still in the ponds.
Unassigned as such.
Yeah.
Well,
How much ponds?
600,000.
600,000 is left in there, so
and
that's
what,
a.
yeah, what I talked to.
532,900.
532,
Thank you.
900. Okay, what I talked to Michael Kraft about was having Stephen Bloom change our balance sheet so it shows those. We'll have a
Yeah,
reserve account
yeah,
for
yeah.
ponds, a reserve account
Yeah, we
for
talked about that.
And I
storm
think-
damage.
And I think we definitely want to do
Because we
that.
want to get that 3 million down to what
Well,
we really,
the real
really
number,
have on.
but the real number is-
Exactly,
Yeah.
Right.
I
Exactly.
agree,
Yeah,
I
sure.
agree. It seems to me also, not only is the maintenance lower with at the higher price, but also probably when you do a capital study, you won't have to
Well, it's 50
block
years.
replacement,
Right.
you won't have to block
I think
replacement in
people-
as
yeah.
frequently to cut down a little bit on how much we have to
That's,
reserve.
that's another thing we wanted to set up, we
Yeah.
either increase our reserves
Yeah.
for that, or set up a separate
Yeah.
reserve for
Can I-
boardwalks.
You ready, mate? You ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I would like to move that we go forward with the, where'd it go now? The handrail synthetic, decking and, handrails with up the price and go with the top of the line here.
And to go to the CDD for approval of an amount
Right.
not to exceed 210, let's say?
Yep.
210,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, John seconds it, Nancy makes the motion, John seconded it. Any further discussion?
I have one comment though.
Oh,
Do we?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to remind you all that the engineering, that is not included in this 208.
Oh, it isn't?
It is
Okay.
not, and that is something that you all, I guess, have already contracted with Joe Foster.
We already expensed that.
Independently of
Oh, okay.
this.
Okay.
Okay.
And how much was that, Scott?
Well, when the original 158, was it in that or not?
No,
No.
it was not.
Okay, so
Remember,
how
we
much is
just,
that?
remember we discovered that.
Yeah, I
it
know,
wasn't-
Yeah, it
how
was-
much is that?
Yeah.
$3,500, that comes out of the,
3,500?
yes,
Not 1,000?
no.
Never
3,500,
mind.
it comes out of our
thought it was
operation
real money.
budget for repairs and maintenance on the bridge.
I'm sorry, I thought it was a lot of money.
Yeah, further discussion.
Just one note,
Sure.
your comment about there are extra boards that aren't really necessary in the design.
Sure.
Do we want him to eliminate some of that?
Well,
I don't
They
think
were
so,
the,
man.
they were
I
the
think it's a
handrail,
safety issue.
they were the handrail ones.
No, well, he said they weren't necessary, that's.
I guess the question is, did the
Was it-
208,000 include the extra board?
Oh, yes, it does, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
on the
basically
hand.
everything you're looking at.
It looks like this picture
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
in terms of
Just
the
like the
hand.
ones-
When we're done, it's gonna look like that,
Different
except you
color.
won't have all those scabbed headers below the water.
Right.
Any other, you had another comment?
No, I just wanted to just clarify that engineering is gonna be a separate invoice, it's not included in this, because you all hire the engineer well before we even bid it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Further,
if you're between we all decide pretty much what the handrails, I think that's a given. So then the difference is now we're talking about $18,000 between synthetic and wood. Although I will not outlive the wood, it just seems to be a
Most of
prudent
us will.
decision to go with the synthetic.
Yeah.
Well, I think the maintenance on the wood would probably eventually
Eat
exceed
that up.
18,000.
Yeah, I agree.
We'd end up spending
Over that
more.
length of
Yeah.
time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not
Any
gonna-
further-
it's not gonna
Technically,
splinter.
too, the synthetic looks so much nicer in the end.
Does it? Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes
Unanimous.
7 unanimously. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you all. Do you have any questions?
When timing? When we start break ground? Once you get approval?
No, we gotta go to the CED.
Well, I know,
That's
but
next
what's
month
that?
at the very
What's
least.
the time frame?
We would, you want me to comment on that?
Yes.
We would, I will drop the contract for what we just spoke about, the 208. Once that's signed, then we would receive a little bit of the payment for the deposit. We would start going for the local permit to get permitting for this. That takes anywhere from 3 weeks to 4 months. Wish I had control over that.
Assume you got approval
Yep.
on July the 18th, which is very likely.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
From that point on, when will we have our new bridges?
We would, I would plug you into the calendar, the schedule, well before the permit was even issued. We wouldn't start working until the permit was placed, but I would get you on the schedule, you would know the time frame. We anticipate it'll take about a month, about 40, 35 working days, barring Mother Nature and such. I would say we can get to you probably by, don't quote me on this, because nothing's in front of me, probably by September-ish. We'd be able to, September, middle of there, somewhere around in that
Good, once it's
time
done before
frame.
October.
Scott, can we apply for the permits prior to the board approving it? I'm
Well-
gonna sit and wait a month for them to approve, and then another month to get permits, can we work simultaneously betting on the calendar?
Well, not without the approval, because we have to get funding for the permit. That's part of the
Well, let me ask you
preliminary.
this, you have approval for 160,000.
Yeah, that's
Can you go
true.
forward based on that, and we're
Great.
just going for the additional funding?
Yeah, we could.
I mean, if we can save 4 weeks or so.
Just get me the,
We'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
finalize the documents, get them over to me, and then we can
Sure.
put in a deposit check. We have a few processes to go through with the CDD.
Well, the other thing to drive us is to get it done in summer when we have low residence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Versus everybody coming back. You close all the bridges then, and it's going to be more of a problem. so.
And I was just gonna comment on that. We are happy to start this, as soon as we have a gap in our schedule, and we're also happy to wait. There's nothing detrimental out there, there's nothing, it seems everything's very structurally sound.
Yeah.
So we're not in a rush
Yeah,
to
but
do
it's really
this.
ugly.
Yeah.
So we could wait until after the part-timers, head back north.
They are
So-
good.
Well, they're
We'd
gone.
rather
No,
do
I
it
mean, like,
before.
We'd rather,
Throughout the rest of
we
the
would
cycle.
like,
Don't
we
wanna
would
wait
like
that
it,
year.
we would like it ASAP.
Got it,
This is the time to do it.
Yeah.
got it.
So,
Okay.
okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for having us.
Mike, you'll take this, or you will, and Chris will come up with something for the July.
What's the earliest meeting we can get it booked?
Well, you'll miss this one, so if we have it by,
You want, and there is no July,
Correct.
no July 4th, right?
July 18th is the only July meeting for the board.
correct,
Yeah,
yep, you missed out on the next one.
yeah.
So we can make the July 18th meeting?
Phil what he needs.
And-
Well, could we walk it,
CDD.
could we walk it in if we get the chairman's approval for the 20th?
If you get the chairman's approval, I mean, are you just gonna do this as a change order?
It's really just,
Probably.
it's a change order.
It's a
Could
change
you handle
order
that,
for
or would you
amount.
rather wait?
Alright, I'll get with Phil after this and we can try to get it.
And Phil, I know you're busy with HOA.
No,
If you need
that's
to, I'll
okay.
be happy to call
Well, yeah.
Margaret to get
No,
it.
yeah.
Just let me know what you want to do.
That's in Philly.
Okay.
He needs to get
Very good.
reviewed.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
So you give him everything he needs for the process.
Very good.
Okay.
Anything else?
Scott?
Yes,
I'm back.
Yep.
you'll be happy to know that I have nothing else today except, I'm sorry. We have Matt here with Securitas and Chris with Securitas, and we still are getting pushback on the access to the community from the realtors. So I know Phil has been getting a barrage with calls and emails. He can update you on that. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to get Matt here to let you know what other communities that they currently service, what they're doing, so we can take a look at some additional options.
Before we get to that,
Yes.
if you would, explain to me again what you told me in the last meeting that I didn't remember, that we changed. At the last meeting, I remember we talked about this.
Right.
We didn't.
But I guess I didn't grasp that there was
Okay.
a significant change.
There wasn't really a significant change. What it was the owner already had to notify the community that they were selling their home.
Okay?
The step is that they had to list their realtor within dwelling live, so the realtor could call in people to show their home, visitors to see the home. But there was a process there, just like the Home Watch. When the Home Watch companies make arrangements for vendors, they have access to get them into the community. So it was a difference of a realtor in the past handing the guard gate a note and saying, hey, put these into the system. So now all they gotta do is make a phone call and do the same thing as they would if they're passing a note.
Okay, but can the homeowner give you kind of a generic, I've got my home listed, and maybe Phil was my listing agent, but Nancy's gonna be the one that comes in, because we all know everybody dips into that pool. Is that enough?
Yes,
Or does the
just
homeowner have to
tell
call-
us what to put in.
Or does the homeowner have to say, I want Nancy on it, I want Phil on it, I want Doug on it, I want Bob?
Anyone who would be calling in potential buyers to that home address would need to be in the system
From the owner.
from the owner. It just needs verification from the owner. You're coming in. More often than not, you have a listing agent. The listing agent always deals with the buying agent to show the home. So they always call and say, can I see the home? Yes. Then that listing agent just puts the showing agent into the system.
So
Oh,
so the listing agent can do all that?
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Yes.
to be the homeowner.
That's what I was,
Yes.
that's what I was
Yeah,
driving
Yeah,
at.
once,
there you
once the
go.
homeowner tells us
Wait a minute.
Okay, wait a second.
what,
Keep going, keep going, we'll get
Let
there.
him finish, but then
Can I just
let him
clarify?
come up.
We're okay.
once,
When the house
once
goes-
the homeowner tells us that this listing agent has access to their
To
home,
represent my house for sale, right?
correct. The only thing that the listing agent has to remember is their phone number in the system will recognize only the phone number we have on file. So if it's their cell number that they call in for access, then they'll have access to that account and be able to get into the community. The problem arises that many of the agents don't use one phone. They
That is
use
correct.
3, 4, 5
If I'm
phones.
in the XYZ agency, I could have 9 other.
Exactly. So if the listing agent isn't calling from their office or their cell phone, whatever they have registered with the association, they're not gonna get that person in.
Oh,
You're
that's a
right.
problem, then. I have a problem with that.
But they can
That's
list,
fine.
how many phone numbers can they put in the system?
How many phone
Say I'm the
numbers?
listing agent.
3,
3.
yeah.
So if I'm the listing agent, I could put my number in, maybe
Two
the
others.
secretary of the firm's number and my.
And some of these real estate firms have 20 people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
can-
but you still
have to
only have
call
one
20.
There's only one listing agent.
And the listing agent is the one who another agent would come to. They're not gonna go,
Yeah,
if
that's
I'm the
to
listing
prohibit
agent.
the other 20 from physically coming in. But making the arrangement to get through the gate, they have to have one of those 3 phone numbers
Yeah, there has
to
to be.
make the arrangement, not to physically get in.
and
They
if-
can all come in.
If it's my house, I don't want 20 people at that firm
Right.
able to bring people into my house. I want one person I hired to be able to bring people in.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I want somebody to sell it. I don't care who comes in.
Oh, but
Okay.
my
But-
listing agent can let all those 20 in if they need to come
Right, but
in.
regardless, the system allows for 3 phone numbers.
Yeah,
Now, ma'am,
Yes.
do you mind if she comes forward?
Yeah, no.
Because she obviously has a
Come on up.
personal experience.
Yep.
Is that Jan?
I want to make sure this is or is not the same
Yes, so do I.
information.
Thank you. I didn't expect to speak to this group today.
Well,
My name is Janice McDermott. I've lived in Pelican since 2005. I only sell in Pelican Preserve, and I've sold hundreds and hundreds of homes in there.
Janice, would you?
I
take
have
the
a
mic?
copy of the post orders as it relates to real estate agents, and there was never any change to the post orders. The post orders stipulate item number 10 on the post orders regarding realtors. Realtors requesting entry into the community for purposes of showing homes must present the officer at the gate with a valid driver's license and a copy of their business card. A realtor's client in a separate car will also be permitted entry if requested by the realtor, so as long as the driver presents a valid driver's license and receives an entry pass. That's it. So what happened a few months ago, there was a change made with no notification to the agents. Now, we're dealing with contract law, and by contract law, that means we have dates and things that we are trying to manage. Without notification, the gate was shut down. Couldn't get repair people in, couldn't get appraisers in, couldn't get anybody through. They were being rejected, there was no phone calls made. All the realtors who sell Pelican Preserve, and there's probably about 30 or so that sell frequently in the community, and you probably even recognize some of their names. They all call me because they know that I know everything. And I'll tell you what, I hit a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, and I realized real quick that I didn't have any say. So all I could say at that point is that I would present, I was blocked, and so now I've got listings in there. I'm told that only the homeowner can notify the guard gate for any agent to come in. Now then I was told that we could add our names in some way. But that doesn't work either. Denise Kaplan would give you a very nice story of what happened to her last week, where she had to drive to the guard gate and had an altercation with the guard gate, came to a yelling match, even though she had notified Castle in writing and got the appropriate approvals. Now this is summertime and we're rather slow right now, so we're dealing, and we recognize that Pelican is going through a transition, and I'm welcoming the new board because I'm trusting that they're gonna take the residents' issues to heart. So we're trying to get together to come up with something that will work for the guard gate, because right now, the realtors are being turned away. I'm getting phone calls about what is wrong with your community, now affectionately known as Pelican Prison. So I get clients who say I would never live in this community. They're being hassled and dismissed by the guards. My point being is that those post orders were never changed. So why all of a sudden am I getting so many phone calls and so many complaints? There's a bunch of realtors that are getting together next week to try to deal with what it is that we have to contend with on a regular basis. My clients are on cruises, they're in nursing homes, they're out of the country, they're not able to call in when they get notification that an agent wants to show their property. If it's season, and I'm managing 10 listings and 1,000 pieces of paper and contracts and phone calls and feedback and everything that goes with the business, and I get a text saying that an agent wants to show a property of mine with a 2-hour notice, I can authorize the agent, I just can't get them through the gate.
Janet,
Thank you for
let-
giving me this
if-
opportunity.
If the way if we were operating the way the post order said, that would work.
And
That's what-
it has for 15 years.
With the caveat that the listing agent also has the authority to enter dwelling lot.
Dwelling lot was never really an issue. According to post orders item number 10, a real estate agent, and this is the way it's handled in most communities, comes in, real estate agents have their fingerprints on file. We are not just, we're going through all the clearances to have access to your homes. We present our business card and a copy of our driver's license. If I'm going to Miramar Lakes, I can get in there with my business card and driver's license. It's just it's a tremendous frustration. I'm thankful that I was here and it happened to be brought up and given this opportunity. There's no need to have such a negative presentation to our community when people come in to view properties and to be grilled as if they're criminals.
Jan, I had a real estate license and worked in real estate for a while, and that was in Illinois, and I know laws changed, but actually my wife was able to take tests for Illinois. They were accommodating in that way. But typically, we always wanted a realtor to call us as the listing agent and let us know that they were going to show the house.
We get
So,
notifications, absolutely.
Yeah, well, the reason we did that was we wanted to notify the seller to get out of the house.
Yes,
And
if they're in it.
if we have your phone number on record at Dwelling Live or at the gatehouse, if you call the resident and then you call Dwelling Live, because they will take phone calls, you could get a pass, I think, for whatever agent wants to come in. And as a realtor, I sure didn't want anybody driving around looking at houses I had listed without letting me know about it first.
It's illegal for us to enter any property without permission. We all know that. It's trespassing, the same as it would be if you were to do that.
Yeah.
So we, as a realtor, we have our own set of rules. What happens is when it's, and also another thing to keep in mind, I know Pelican and I know the rules, but Acme Realty out in Estero is listing a property in Pelican Reserve. They don't have a clue what's gonna happen when they try to get realtors to come in. The house is vacant, it's listed with Bonita, they don't know about Pelican Reserve post orders or anything else. They'll do what everybody does, gain access. The homeowner could be in another country, different time zone. And everything is automated now. We have a lot of our, you can book appointments at night and we get notifications on our text. We in turn notify our sellers, if our sellers are here, if they're not here, which is a good chunk of the time, we coordinate that. It's business and we've been running it for 15 years. In the last 3 months, someone threw a cog in the work and everything stopped. And it's caused us a lot of aggravation.
Okay, we want to try and fix
Yes,
that.
yes, yeah, let's.
Scott,
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Janet.
We'll have Matt talk about
Yeah.
two things, what the
Okay.
current post orders, how they're, because they were reviewed and approved
Yeah.
3-4
They need to
months
be
ago.
changed.
Yeah, and we
We
were
can change it.
reviewed about
This is March
Yeah.
12th.
I didn't realize
2019.
it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
understand.
All right,
Yeah.
he's on
Hey
the
guys,
poster.
Matt from Securitas, and as Scott said, I got Chris, the site supervisor, here with me. I can speak more towards post orders and things like that. Chris can speak more towards the everyday going on at the post with the team. Two things I just want to point out. There was a lot of valid points just made by our last speaker. One thing I want to point out there is there's two sets of post orders, and Ron, the guys that have worked with it on me know that. One is the official post orders for the site, which is a 65-page document. We've gone through the process and said that's a lot of recall information for our officers to know. So we have a short version, which is a tool for the officers to have daily recall, like, hey, how do I operate 95% of my job each day? And that document then got pushed out to the community to say, hey, community, this is what your team is working off of for daily interactions. So what was just read was the section out of the instruction to the officer post orders, this short version. It's very close to what the actual post orders say, but there's some slight variation because it's giving instruction to the officer saying, hey, check the business card, check the ID. When they do that, that gives them authorization to allow the car behind them to go through with them. And so it's more, you can see the wording was tailored to the officer at the post as to how to do. The actual post orders read, realtors may enter the community to show listings at any time. The following protocol will be followed by realtors and open house events, and then it talks about signage and things like that of what appropriate times are for open houses. What it doesn't specifically tie down in the post orders is what it takes to qualify to enter. It gives the timing to say, there's no time restrictions like a vendor for a realtor. So if they're coming a little bit earlier, if they're coming a little bit later, if they're coming on the weekends, et cetera, they're allowed access in at any time. So you can see then the instruction to the officers on duty is this is what you get from a realtor. You're taking a copy of their business card to verify that they are a realtor, and you're taking their driver's license. Then that gives the officer on duty the green light that, hey, if they're saying this car behind me is a showing, and that they can approve them to come in, that gives them the green light, yeah, because I verified the realtor by this transaction, they're allowed to approve the car behind them to also come in. Or they're allowed to say, I got so-and-so coming, 2 minutes from now, or whatever.
So dwelling live doesn't enter into that part of it, up to down.
Right, so what happened was, a couple months ago, we turned on that automated voicemail feature, right? So creating the automated voicemail feature now then gives the ability to utilize dwelling live in a different way, right? So now the Castle Group or whoever can create a new profile on dwelling live, just like the owner, and that new profile can have the power of an owner to be able to add guests, right? And so the utilization of dwelling live has become different, and that's what I think our experience is in the last 3 months that's being described. Now, as Scott also mentioned, the other thing for me to talk about is what happens in different communities, and it's really a topic for you guys to decide, because it's like the quality of the lock you put on the door. You can choose whatever quality lock you want to control access levels. Some communities, if a car pulls up and it's a realtor card, they're coming in. And other communities make it, they have to be registered in the system as a visitor to get in. But you guys have that decision, the power to make that decision of how do you want to see it go, and what qualifications do you want to make for people to be able to come in.
So those are the two polls. One of them is.
One of them, they
Is to
show a
do-
real estate card and we're hitting the button. And the other polar opposite would be they have to be listed as a visitor, just like Jackson Pools, in order to get in the community.
Okay, so the way that we have been trying to operate for the last 3 months.
It sounds as like we've been much more on the tighter end over the last few months, is what I've heard in the last few minutes.
Okay,
I should, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, the way the post orders, my interpretation of the post orders is if I'm selling my house, I have to put the listing agent's information into dwelling line. That listing agent has the authority to allow other agents to come in if they've identified who those other agents are, or other people who have to do certifications associated with the selling of the house. Is that accurate?
So I would say that there's some ambiguity, because in the section specifically about realtors, it does not categorize the realtor as having any other variance to gain entrance to the community than any other person coming into the community. It just says that from a timetable, they're allowed to come in at any time, right?
Okay,
So then that would default back to what does it take for anyone to get in the community, and for anyone to get in the community would be
So if
approval
I put a
by
listing
an owner.
agent in the system, and identify them, they in turn call Dwelling Live, identify themselves, and say, this other agent is coming to show the house. That's not sufficient information.